Hello, I'm back with a new video. Finally. I don't know if some of you guys have this, but I sort of have this list in the back of my mind, and on that list are bands from which I do know that they exist, however I never really looked them up. And Lifelover was on that list for a long time. However, a couple of weeks ago I was bored, so I decided I did a YouTube search on Lifelover. And ever since then I've been thinking to myself about how to describe this band. But luckily when I ordered this album and it came in the mail, the record label bothered to explain what type of music I'm dealing with. That's right, music influenced by Shining and Forgotten Tomb. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Today I'm going to review Pulver by Lifelover. For those of you who are not familiar with Lifelover, Lifelover was a Swedish depressive metal band started in 2005. They released their first demo in 2005 and in 2006 they released their first album, Pulver. However, the original Pulver release was limited to only 500 copies. But luckily in 2009 the people at Osmose Records thought to themselves like, well, hey, we got that upcoming band. Why don't we re-release one of their albums? And so Pulver was re-released to be consumed by the masses. Unfortunately, in 2011 Lifelover was disbanded due to the death of their founding member B. When it comes to the overall sound of this album sounds really dark. You can definitely tell that this is a depressive metal band that we're dealing with. There are definitely some influences by black metal, but also some rock influences. You can definitely hear the rock influences on the guitar riffs. The guitar riff continuously switched between being metal and being more rock oriented, which in my opinion is a really good thing. Yeah, because although the songs on this album are relatively short, it definitely adds to the diversity of the album. It may not add that much to the diversity, but it definitely adds something. When it comes to acoustic music and depressive metal, one of the first bands that I think of is Shining. Lifelover also has acoustic music or classical music mixed throughout their songs. However, if you listen to a band like Shining, Shining continuously, or at least on Halmstad, had that formula of having a metal intro, then halfway through the song just sort of dies and there is this big acoustic part and of epicness, of awesomeness, and then the band either decides to continue on that more acoustic note or they just go back to the metal. However, Lifelover doesn't really do that. What Lifelover's approach to acoustic or classical music throughout this album is much more subtle. MS Salmonella is basically based off this very quiet piano tune, or the acoustic intro on Kerlik. Stuff like that. It's not exactly very, pushing the limits of the genre, but it definitely adds something to the diversity of this album. Out of the 4 band members, they have 3 vocalists. I couldn't find a list that says what band member did what type of vocals on what song, but I couldn't find that, which is really unfortunate, so I'm just going to vaguely describe it. The main vocalist on this album basically does something much more closer to the traditional black metal screams. However, when you really think about it, it's not exactly that. But it's also not like, for example, Niklas Farford does with Shining. Niklas Farford sounds really aggressive, really pure, very emotional. However, the vocalist on this album sounds really cold, really dark, really sad. And I definitely like that. However, the thing is that the vocals on this album are very much in the background. Generally speaking, the production on this album is pretty raw, although one of the problems that the album has because of that is that there is no actual musical focus. Everything is just sort of there, but there is nothing really that jumps out. Yeah, most bands have a specific focus on the vocalist. However, Lifelover doesn't really do that. The vocals on this album sound really far away, more in the background. But the thing is, if you place all your musical focus, if you don't have any musical focus and you basically place everything which your band has to offer in the background, it sort of becomes background music. Perhaps they did that deliberately, because this is still a depressive metal record that we're dealing with, and I can definitely see someone hanging themselves. I can definitely see some people hanging themselves over this album, while listening to this album. However, I prefer to have at least somewhat of a focus when I listen to an album. Halmstad by Shining or even Forgotten Tomb have a specific focus.
Kilometer efter kilometer uppställda på rad. Det lyses upp av solens gasande sken. Hyreshus i staden ska återgå till sömn i väntan på en förgryning, en ny dag i väntan på det oundvikliga.
I would definitely recommend this album if you're into depressive metal. However, if you're not really into depressive metal, this is still an album which you can listen to because of the many other influences it has, mainly the acoustic music and the rock riffs I really liked. I never said this in one of my reviews. The biggest compliment I can give to an album is that it makes me feel calm. And that is definitely what this album does. Behind all the chaos and all the depressiveness and all the sadness on this album, there is definitely a tranquility behind it. A tranquility in the chaos. So although this album definitely sort of sounds like background music, I still really liked it. It is very good background music. So, I hope you liked the review, and bye.